What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be on all of the sniper rifles and which snipers you should be using. I'm tending to focus more on the Vanguard weapons and snipers in general right now, just because those are what's interesting to me. We've had the other guns forever, so I'm just more interested in the Vanguard guns, more interested in Vanguard Royale. I do throw in, the Modern Warfare car, the Swiss, and the SPR just for some comparison to the Vanguard snipers. But I didn't intend on doing that event initially. I just kind of decided that it was important to do, so I just included it as I was researching this video. I'm going to give you recommended builds for all the different snipers, what I found were the best. I extensively test all of this. It took me pretty much all day today, so if you want to help support, be sure to hit that like button and drop a comment down below. And if you're new, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more good content like this. But without any further ado, let's jump into it and we will talk about these sniper rifles. So I'm first going to go over basically my rankings for what I think are the most important stats for a sniper rifle. And that would be ADS time, bullet velocity, flinch, aimed walking sway. So that's how much the gun is swaying around as you're strafing. Aim sway, which is just how much the gun is swaying around when you're sitting still. And body damage, I also think is kind of important for, just how good a sniper is if you miss that headshot. So those are chest shot damages on here, but they can kind of be compared to the, every other damage location as well. They'll be pretty consistent across the board. So first off, we got the Type 99, 3-line, Vanguard car, SPR with the focus perk, the Swiss with the airborne elastic wrap, the Modern Warfare car with the focus perk. And these are my recommended builds for all of these weapons with the specified attachment also. So we'll talk about the SPR with focus perk. We'll talk about the Swiss, the car, and all the other builds that I used for these numbers. But I measured all of this using my recommendations. So first off, looking at ADS times. ADS time obviously is very important. The faster you can ADS and get on your target is super important for a sniper, because you can help you hit quick shots and down somebody before they have a chance to shoot back a lot of the time. So the 3-line and the Type 99 are both pretty terrible in terms of ADS. They're very slow. They're much like the HDR, AX50, ZRG kind of snipers, where they're really big and heavy. And because of that, they get really high bullet velocity, but we'll go over the rest of the stats as we go on. Actually, surprisingly, the fastest ADS of all of these was the Vanguard Car 98, down at 321 milliseconds. And then the SPR with the focus perk, how I have it built, again, we'll go over that, 437 milliseconds. Swiss with airborne was 403 milliseconds. Modern Warfare car with the focus perk was 372. So the two best are the car and the car. Vanguard's the best, followed by the Modern Warfare. Looking at bullet velocity, basically the 3-line's the fastest at 1250. It basically ties the ZRG in terms of bullet velocity with the fastest bullet velocity in the game. Type 99 is down at 1212, which is pretty close to the fastest. I think the HDR is around that, a little bit slower than that. Maybe a couple others as well, like the LW3, but really good bullet velocities here for the Type 99 and 3-line. But unfortunately, those are like the only redeeming factors for those guns, as you'll see when we go through the rest of the stats. Vanguard car actually had really good bullet velocity out to, these were all tested at 500 meters just for consistency. So it had 1090, which was actually quite a bit faster than the SPR, Swiss, and Modern Warfare car with my builds. This is the max bullet velocity build for the Swiss and the car. They're both about the same at 500 meters, a little bit below 1000. But you'll see the SPR build is interesting and actually doesn't have a suppressor, so it has lower bullet velocity. But the reason for that is the ability to have that focus perk and still have decent ADS times. So you can see in the flinch column, the Type 99 and 3-line have absolutely atrocious flinch, just unusable amount of flinch. If you get shot at all, you're losing the fight. So that alone, coupled with the ADS times, I think basically makes those two guns not even worth considering. I'm never going to use them. I'm going to stick to the Vanguard car for sure, even when I'm playing Vanguard Royale. As far as the other guns go, the Vanguard car is kind of like in the middle of the pack. It's at 4.8 flinch out of 10, and you'll see the SPR with focus is all the way down at 0.9. So that's like very little flinch when you put that focus perk on there. It's the least flinch of any sniper in the game by almost 4 times less flinch than the car, the Modern Warfare car, and the Swiss, even with flinch reducing attachments on both of those. So that's huge. I mean, this is basically like what the snipers used to be like, the Swiss and the car, maybe even a little bit less than what they used to have. So it'll probably get patched, especially if a lot of people start running it after this video. But for right now, SPR with the focus perk has incredible flinch. If you want to see what this looks like visually, I went and measured these. That's how I got those numbers. So you can see the SPR with the flinch perk is down here at the bottom. Basically, I would aim at the center of the cross and get shot and see how much I would flinch up. And the SPR with flinch perk was all the way down here, like just barely any. It was like 10 pixels or something. Modern Warfare car with the flinch perk and Swiss with the airborne elastic wrap were up here. And then Vanguard car was just slightly more than that. And then the 3-line Type 99, ZRG, HDR, AX50, all those big heavy snipers are all the way up at the top, like flinching just an insane amount that they're unusable if you're getting shot at all. But back to the stats, aimed walking sway is also really important for two reasons. Sometimes you are actually taking shots while you're strafing in situations where you're actually in a gunfight, and also it allows you to be closer to your target when you stop moving to take the shot. So if it's swaying all over the place and you stop moving, you're not going to know exactly where the center of that sway is going to come back to. So it's kind of hard to be on your target while you're strafing. Even if you stopped to try to hit the shot, it still can really slow down the time between when you stop and when you can take the shot. So it's a really important stat. And you can see that the Modern Warfare guns and the Swiss also have really good aim walking sway. For some reason, the Type 99 and 3 line just have atrocious aim walking sway, and there's nothing you can do to reduce it. I tried all the different attachments, nothing seems to affect it at all. None of the optics do. For some reason, the Vanguard car, some of the attachments seem to work for that, and a few of the optics specifically have big reductions in the aim walking sway. So that's a really big plus. We'll talk about this as I go through the builds. Aim sway, again, Type 99 and 3 line have horrible aim sway. They do have the benefit of having the perk that lets you hold your breath for like 30 seconds, which is really nice. But still, that sway, that even if you hold your breath immediately when you ADS, that sway makes it so your the time between ADSing and taking the shot is a lot longer than a gun without that. And it's much more difficult to take quick shots with really bad aiming stability. You can see the Vanguard car with how I've built it actually has phenomenal aim sway, and that's really important. We'll talk about why when we get to the builds. SPR with focus is a little bit worse. Modern Warfare car with focus is again a little bit worse. The Swiss with the airborne elastic is very good as well. So the Vanguard car and the Swiss win this category. As far as body damage, the only two outliers really here are the Vanguard car and the Type 99. Type 99 only did 125 to the chest. The Vanguard car only did 135. So you'll kind of notice that if you use the Vanguard car, it feels like a lot of the time you're not getting downs when you should have, even if you hit somebody like 2 or 3 times with the sniper. So that's a pretty big downside of the Vanguard card. Unfortunately, the Swiss and the SPR and the 3 line all hit pretty hard. Modern Warfare car hits decently hard as well. But that's pretty much all I wanted to go through as far as important statistics for these weapons. Now let's go talk about the builds and how I built them and why I built them. But first, we're gonna go through some important notes that I found when I was testing all this stuff to make this video. All right, so I want to go through these important things that I learned when I was testing before I go talk about how to build the guns, because a lot of this is factored into why I build them, how I build them. So the first one is the 3-6x and the 4-6x optics on the Vanguard car help a ton with the aim walking sway, but they don't for some reason with the 3 line on the Type 99. So that's an important stat, like I said. So if you use one of those two optics, you get the benefits of that, which is really nice. The 4x flip is the highest zoom optic with no glint. Actually in the game, tying the 4x flip on the Modern Warfare guns. Obviously the reticle's terrible on the 4x flip by default, but there are some better ones that you can get if you want to play Vanguard and unlock those. If you're interested in having a no glint sniper, that is one benefit. Unfortunately with the 4x flip, you can't hold your breath, so that's one thing to consider. You'll either have to have really good aiming stability or be really good at hitting little flicks to adjust for that aim sway. The 3.5x rifle scope has no glint as well. And you can hold your breath with that one. So that is one of the big benefits of the 3.5x rifle scope. The reason you can hold your breath on that one is because it's not a toggle scope. Any of the scopes that have toggle between 2 different zooms, those you can't hold your breath on. So that's what you'll see below 3-6x in the next point here. The 3-6x optic glints on both the 3x and the 6x settings, and you can't hold your breath. The 4-8x also glints on both settings, and you also can't hold your breath. I also tested the shrouded perk, which is the perk that's supposed to either reduce or change the angle of your glint or something like that. I saw no differences anywhere. I tried different angles. It seemed exactly the same as without shrouded. There was no delay in when the glint showed up. It was instant on all cases. So I think the shrouded perk just literally does nothing. And then a big disappointing point on here is that none of the flinch attachments or perks or anything do anything at all for the Vanguard snipers. So there's like 5 or 6 attachments that say they help with flinch on the Vanguard snipers, but none of them work whatsoever. It doesn't change the amount of time you're flinched off target, and it doesn't change the magnitude. All right, so I'm going to start with a 3-line recommended build. I'll just go attachment by attachment. For the muzzle, the reason we choose the Mercury silencer, again, we don't want to show up on the minimap, but we don't want to hurt our aim down sight time, and we don't care so much about damage range because a lot of the time you're going to be using snipers at longer ranges, and you're going for headshots at one-shot headshots everywhere anyway, so we don't care about damage range, but we do care about aim down sight time. We don't want to hurt that, so that's why we picked the Mercury silencer. As far as barrel, again, bullet velocity is like the most important stat for a sniper rifle. So the 820mm is the only barrel that increases bullet velocity on this rifle, and it does a pretty good job of also increasing damage. So it's pretty much a no-brainer. It's just the barrel to use for this sniper. Optic, like I said in my important points, the 4 to 8x and the 3 to 6x for some reason don't help with the sway on this gun. And it seems like the default reticle or the default optic might actually help a little bit with that. So if you want no glint, obviously you can go with like the 3 to 5x or 3.5x rifle scope, or you could go with the 4x flip, which again does not have glint, but it has a terrible reticle. But like I said, let's look at the reticles real fast on that just so you can see. There are a few that are okay. So the default one's that weird rectangle thing that just would be horrible for a sniper. But really the first one you get, the range chevron, is okay. It's not great. The range tac dot, the second one, is okay. And then all the way at the end, you have basically like a yellow T-pose. So this one would probably be the best, but obviously that takes a long time to unlock. So I'll definitely be trying this no glint build, and I'll probably go unlock this first range chevron. I don't have it unlocked on my account. This is not my account that I'm on right now to make this video, but I'll probably go get that range chevron and try it out. I think it's going to be at least decent. So that's pretty much the reason that I just use the default optic that has a great sight picture on this gun, and it seems to maybe help with that aim walking sway a little bit. So it's worth considering there. As far as the stock, I use this Zach Custom MZ stock. This basically gives you the best ADS times of any of the stocks, and the other stats don't really seem to matter that much. So really, I'm on this sniper specifically basically just going for better ADS because the other stats don't seem to help that much. Aiming stability is always important too, but there's really no other stock in here that helps with both aiming stability and ADS time. So that's why we just picked the ADS time stock. Underbarrel, again, ADS time super important, so we go with the Mark 4 skeletal or Mark 6 skeletal. This is the best ADS time of the attachments. Magazine, bullet velocity, and damage. So the other two magazines don't help that. In fact, the second magazine actually hurts that, so that's why we go with the third. Helps with bullet velocity, damage range, and damage. So overall, just makes this thing hit harder and have higher bullet velocity. For ammunition, obviously lengthened for max bullet velocity. For the grip, we use the leather grip, and that's because we want good ADS time and we want good aiming stability. So it's a no-brainer there. There's other decent options in the rear grip category, but I think the leather grip's probably the best option. As far as perks, silent focus, again, to get better aiming stability with no penalties at all, is really nice. And none of these other things really work. Like I said, shrouded doesn't do anything. Hard scope won't do anything because you don't need better accuracy because none of the guns have bloom at all anyway, so you don't need better accuracy. Sleight of hand's nice, always nice, but you have 20 bullets with this magazine, so I don't think you're ever going to need sleight of hand. Position concealment, you already have a silencer, and awareness, sprint fire speed does not matter for a sniper. So silent focus, I think, is the only one that really makes sense in this case. As far as perk 2, because the aim sway is so bad on these guns, I think deep breath is a good choice because you'll just immediately want to hold your breath when you zoom in, and you can hold it for so long with this perk. So that's the 3-line build. It's essentially the same as the Type 99 build. I will just very briefly go over the differences on the Type 99 build, but let's go on to the Kar 98. All right, so on to the Vanguard Kar 98. The logic is a lot the same as the Type 99 and 3-line, but there are some differences here. So Scout Silencer is the same as the Type 99 and 3-line, where you just don't care about damage range, but you do care about ADS time, so we go for the Scout Silencer. This barrel is the only one that helps with bullet velocity, and it also has the benefit of increasing upper extremities damage, so that'll be like upper arm and upper leg. So that's a nice little benefit there. As far as optics, this is one of the places where there's a lot of different things to consider. The 4x flip does not have glint, but it has a bad reticle, and you can't hold your breath. So the benefit there is you have high zoom with no glint, but you have a bad reticle and you can't hold your breath. The 4 to 8x has a great reticle, good ADS times, but you can't hold your breath. It also glints, which is another downside, which is the exact same exact rules apply to the 3 to 6x. So the 3 to 6x also glints, you also can't hold your breath, and it's just, it has a great reticle, but the fact that it glints and you can't hold your breath makes it a little bit of a downside there. And then the 3.5x, where are you, 3.5x? So the 3.5x rifle scope is one of the unique ones in that it has no glint and you can hold your breath. It also has pretty high zoom at 3.5x, which is well above the affected threshold. So even if you're playing on affected on PC, you're still going to get pretty high zoom with this. One big downside to the 3.5x over the 3 other I listed is that it really doesn't help at all with that aim walking sway. There's still a ton of aim walking sway with the ZF4, so there's pros and cons to those four optics, and you can kind of balance them how you want. How I'm going to try to build this is either with the 4 to 8x or the 4x flip, personally. I think those are my 2 favorite optics, and because of that, neither one of those can hold your breath. So I build this as a very high aiming stability build, so there's almost no sway at all. I like that anyway, so it's just kind of a nice benefit that I don't have any need to hold my breath from that. So with the stock, the reason I go with the thumb hole instead of the short stock, I didn't notice a huge difference in ADS time between the two when I was testing this, and the thumb hole really helps with aiming stability compared to the short stock. The short stock also hurts your aim walking steadiness, so that's another thing. When you're strafing with this thing, it actually is very steady. It's almost like the old snipers were. Again, since I can't hold my breath, I get aiming stability everywhere. So this gives me, heavy foregrip gives me aiming stability and aim walking steadiness. There's no attachment in here that helps with aim down sight time. If there was, there might be a question there if I should use that instead. But heavy foregrip is my favorite option there. I tested the ADS difference between the five round mag and the 3 round mag. Basically the same. It was like one frame at 60 FPS, so it was like 20 milliseconds or so. You don't really want to use the other two mags because both of those hurt your bullet velocity. So really the only question was if the ADS time change is worth it for the 3 round mag, and I don't really think it is. So I stick with the 5 round mag. You still have great ADS times with this thing. Ammunition always is lengthened on these snipers because it gives you that bullet velocity. Rear grip again, aiming stability and aim down sight time are super important for snipers. Two of the most important stats, so that's why we picked the leather grip there. Perk wise, I like Fleet. I don't think the other ones are really worth using. Like I said, Shrouded doesn't work. Quickscope doesn't matter because you already have perfect accuracy since they changed that. Fleet gives you basically amped when you swap away from your sniper rifle, which is really nice. And it just gives you a little movement speed as well. So that's just, it's not a great perk, but I think it's the best of the options. Perk 2, really, you can't hold your breath with the optics that I like, but if you wanted to use an optic where you could hold your breath, you might want to consider deep breath. But generally, the way that I'm using it, I'm not going to ever be holding my breath. So I'm just going with fully loaded just so I get the most ammo. I think this is actually a really good build and will be pretty competitive with the old snipers that we used to have, like the Swiss and the car, the Modern Warfare car. The problem is the flinch has gotten so bad with these things that they're hard to use, but I do think this one at least comes close to being a competitive weapon in Warzone. So like I said when I was talking about the 3 line, the Type 99, all the logics is exactly the same. So if you want to know why I picked the attachments I picked, you can just go watch that segment of the video. Basically bullet velocity, ADS time, all those important stats I went over at the beginning, we're just maximizing those. The only difference here is we're using remove stock just because it gives the best ADS times for the Type 99, whereas the 3 line doesn't even have a remove stock, so it's not even an option there. We also use the vital perk just because it increases that torso damage a little bit, but torso damage is still not great on this weapon. But overall, the only Vanguard sniper that I really think is worth even considering using is the Kar 98, unfortunately. I hope they buff these other snipers a little bit in some way soon because they are really hard to use, except the Kar 98. All right, so really briefly, I'm going to go over the SPR that I put on that rankings list. It's a pretty interesting build, but it actually works really well. So basically, you just remove the monolithic suppressor and put the focus perk on there. This gives you awesome flinch, almost no flinch at all. Kind of like the Swiss and the Kar 98 used to be. It's the only difference from a normal meta build. Normal mags for bullet velocity, tac laser for aiming stability, ADS times, SPR 26-inch barrel for bullet velocity. This gets you almost to 1,000 bullet velocity, which is still pretty good, pretty competitive with the Swiss and the Kar 98. The only problem is you show up on the map, but really that's not always that important. And the focus perk is just super valuable in this high flinch period of Warzone. So I think this is actually a really fun build to use. Also, the Swiss sounds amazing, or not the Swiss, the SPR sounds amazing without a silencer on it. So you get to enjoy that when you don't have a suppressor on there. All right, so really quickly, there have been 10,000 videos made on the Kar 98 from Modern Warfare and the Swiss over the years. So I'm not going to talk about them for very long. The only difference here is that now these guns have so much flinch, it's worth putting the focus perk on the Kar 98. So basically you're either removing the stock or the rear grip that you used to use for the focus perk, which is just worth it because the flinch is so bad nowadays. For the Swiss, this is actually the build I've pretty much always used, toggle back and forth between the fast mag and the SAS combat stock. Overall, the good players tend to prefer the SAS combat stock so they can take corner peeks really quickly for that strafe speed. But this is the same build always. The airborne elastic wrap helps with that flinch supposedly a little bit. I didn't actually test this, but they say it does, and it gives you aiming stability and aim down sight time, and I know those two work. So overall, I think that's why it's better than the Serpent Wrap. But just wanted to quickly cover those. I do think both those guns are absolutely top tier snipers still, even after the flinch changes. I think the Swiss, SPR, Modern Warfare Car, and Vanguard Car are the 4 best snipers, and they're kind of all interchangeable. They all excel at different things. But overall, unfortunately, the other snipers just aren't really worth using right now. All right, this wasn't a fully comprehensive comparison of all the snipers, but the 4 best in the game for sure are these 4 right here: Vanguard car, SPR, Swiss, and Modern Warfare car. Another one that's pretty good actually is the HDR with the flinch perk. If I remember right, the flinch is still a little bit more than the Swiss and the Modern Warfare car, even with the flinch perk, but it has higher bullet velocity. It's an okay option still, but I really just wanted to talk about these Vanguard snipers mainly and compare them. A lot of people have been talking about the 3 line, and I just think it's not even worth considering using that over the Vanguard car right now. So I hope you guys found this video interesting. This one took a lot of work, so if you want to help support, be sure to drop a like and a comment on the video, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. The changes to the website are coming very soon. I've made some programming breakthroughs in the last few days, so hopefully within 4 or 5 days we'll have the damage modifying attachments up on True Game Data and functioning, as well as all the other changes we've made to the site in the last month or 2. So that's really exciting. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.